Hi, this is Todd Creager, and I just wanted to talk about trauma and how trauma is not your fault, but healing is your responsibility. As a therapist who works a lot with trauma, I emphasize this point over and over again. You know, trauma that you have, especially when it's at the expense of you by somebody else who has neglected you or abused you sexually or physically or emotionally, that is, somebody is taking out their pain on you, and that's not your fault. You're innocent. A lot of times people that are perpetrators blame the victim. So a lot of the work I do with victims is helping them free themselves of this self-blame, where they are actually just innocent victims. I've had people that were molested, for example, that they blame themselves. They on some level felt they were damaged goods or they were dirty. Not at all the case. So one of the things I did was I would help them become free of that and recognize that the reason they got molested or abused in whatever way is because of the immaturity, the inability for the perpetrator to deal with their pain in a better way. So it's very important to recognize it's not your fault. I mean, even impersonal trauma, such as an accident where something falls on your head, or a car accident, even if you may have, obviously if you drank too much, that's another story. But for the most part, with trauma, it's not our fault. Having said that, healing is our responsibility. As I work with couples and I have the trauma of infidelity, it's a big thing I work with a lot. Absolutely, I say this over and over, the person who did the betrayal, it's their responsibility for their actions. They betrayed because it was their choice. However, how the partner heals is not up to the person who betrayed. It's up to the person who was betrayed. And that's always the case. If somebody walks up to me and punches me in the stomach, they're responsible for punching me. If my stomach hurts, though, or if there's a major problem, I'm responsible for taking care of it. That's just how it is. So, it's not something we ask for with trauma, but it is something that we have to deal with. So, of course, it's up to us. We are responsible. Healing is our responsibility because we don't want to be burdened by the trauma anymore. We don't want to relive the trauma, which is what happens. Basically, people, if they don't heal from trauma, they relive the trauma. So it's up to us to heal so that we don't relive the trauma. Very important. And also we need to know that we need to heal, because when we have unprocessed pain from trauma, believe me, we spread it to other people. Our loved ones, people that we care a lot about, will get affected because we didn't process the pain. So we do need to do that. We don't want to allow what someone did to us for us to propagate it and do it to other people. We also want to be the best we can be. And look, life doesn't promise us where we'll never get hurt, that we'll be unscathed, that everything's going to be rosy. There are tough things that happen in life, and we need to accept the challenge of life, and we need to accept that one of the things we need to do is heal. And when we heal from trauma, oftentimes there's something I talk to my graduate students about as well as my clients called post-traumatic growth. That what happens is when we heal from trauma, not only our goal might be to recover from the trauma. Let's say you start at one level and you get traumatized, you go down, and then recovery is you go back to that level. No. We want post-traumatic growth. We want you to get to the point where you're higher, that you're better, that you have developed some skills, that you've worked on some weaknesses in the process of healing from your trauma, so that you are actually better or more, whatever that trait is, wiser, stronger, kinder, more capable, more tuned in, more empathic for what you've been through. Those are the kinds of things we do. We can affect real change in our lives and in the lives of others that we love and others that we come in contact with by healing from our pain. So we can't wait around for people to take away our pain. We can't, if we've been traumatized, think that it's just going to go away by time. People go, oh, time heals all wounds. Not necessarily. Time helps. It's one of the factors, but we need to get involved in our healing. Sometimes we could do that on our own. Sometimes we really need someone, such as myself, to help people process the trauma. I've talked about eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR. It's a very amazing evidence-based practice that people could do. It's done in person, but now during this coronavirus episode we're having now, trauma therapists are getting creative and finding ways to do this online. And so part of taking responsibility for your healing is knowing when to reach out and allow yourself to get healed from the trauma with the help of somebody else or other people. These are all things that we could do. So definitely trauma was not your fault, but healing is your responsibility. Let's take charge. Whether you reach out and get assistance, which is oftentimes a good idea, or whether you're able to process it on your own, reading books, whatever. There is no substitute, though, for having human support, whether it is a professional therapist or loved ones that can help you process the pain. Very important in trauma to process, to be able to express, to speak about it. Research shows that is so important. It's not speaking about it is more of the issue than the trauma itself. Of course, the trauma is the problem, but not being able to talk about it, keeping silent about it, hiding from it, that becomes the thing that leads to post-traumatic stress disorder that could follow you around. And so take responsibility for your healing. Don't blame yourself for what happened. The other person gave it to you, and you took it because you had no other choice at the moment. It's the best you could do. Now you could heal. So anyway, this is Todd Creager, wishing you well, making the world safe for love.